Looking ahead to round 13, obviously hugely impacted round through Origin. Half the teams have buys, and a lot of the teams playing are rinsed. But looking first at the Thursday night game, I'm surprised they have a Thursday night game, to be honest, with only 4, but I'm not complaining. Brings the weekend earlier forward one day, if you know what I mean. But Dragons, Broncos, two very hard teams to predict, but just going through some of the team news, Tarek Sims, Haas and Coates out through injury. Dufty, Ravalawa, Kerr return from suspensions and injuries. I believe Jack de Belin is picked for his first NRL game in 3 years. Look, I'm not going to touch on the Jack de Belin situation. It all looks a bit messy, and I don't really want to talk about that stuff on this podcast. I want to try and keep it positive, but he's playing nonetheless, so I guess good luck to him. But on the Broncos front, Alex Glenn, Matthew Lodge and Tyson Gamble all returned to the 17. Milford is dropped. I did forget to mention Milford in the review. He had an absolute stinker. But I have to say, the way they're treating him, it's just not great. Like, at this point, you've dropped him. I don't care how many injuries to your halves or whatever happens. Just keep him there. He's obviously down on confidence. He's down on form. He's not at the NRL level right now. Leave him there. If you have to play bloody Payne Haas at halfback or 5'8", do it. Because what they're doing right now, they drop him for a week. It's not enough for him to get his form and confidence and momentum back. He comes back, still low on that stuff, has an even worse game, goes back even less confident. And it's just a vicious cycle right now for Milford. So at this point, I don't think he should probably play another game for the season, unless he does catch fire for like 6 weeks in the Q Cup. But at this point, I'd let him stay there. Especially, I don't know him obviously, but I could imagine how tough it would be mentally what he's going through right now. So I would just leave him there, let him have the rest of the year there. I'd stick with Milford, I'd stick with Gamble and Kelly. Hopefully they don't get injured or suspended. And I'll just leave Milford and Croft in the reserves for now, playing Queensland Cup, try and get their confidence back, and hopefully they could have a crack either at the Broncos or somewhere else in the halves next year, and build some confidence back in the Queensland Cup. In terms of tipping this game, it's tough, but I just think the Dragons will be too strong. They've almost got the full lineup that had a cracking start to the year. Pretty much from round 6 onwards, there was always a piece of the puzzle missing. Yes, Tarek Sims is out through Origin selection, but pretty much all their players are back from injury and suspension now. I think Josh Maguire and Fui Mariner are the only ones left to come back. But Ben Hunt's back, Dufty's back, and I don't think they'll put on a show, but I just think they'll be too good. I've got them winning by 6 here. Broncos can be good on their day, but I can't really trust the Broncos enough to tip them at the moment. Tigers, Penrith. This is a tough one because obviously the Panthers are decimated and the Tigers are a pretty unpredictable team. But looking at the changes, Tigers only one change. Stefano Utoikamanu comes in for Joe Ofahengaue, who is in the Queensland squad. Panthers lose Coruscant, To'o, Yo, Luai, Martin and Cleary to New South Wales selection, and Capewell to Queensland selection, and then Leota has been suspended as well. The spine of Penrith is now Dylan Edwards at fullback, who returns from injury, Matt Burton in at 6, Tyron May in at 7, and Mitch Kennedy at hooker. So it's not a bad spine at all. Their bench is very inexperienced. Only one of them has played for Penrith before, and he's played one game. So that'll be interesting to see. But they've all been killing it in reserve grade, top of the table there. So I'm going to trust them to come in, do a job. I think we've seen it. I know it's a different sport, and there's not much cross-sport references in Australian sport, but we've seen it with Richmond time and time again. No matter how many injuries and stuff, the process is just that good. Anyone can come in and do well. Same with the Storm. And I just think Penrith's system's too good, unfortunately. And I have to say, the Tigers actually are due for a bad performance, which I'm worried about, because it would be nice to knock off Ivan Cleary at Leichhardt on a Friday night. I would have gone up for this game, but we are in lockdown in Melbourne, so that's a shame. But Panthers by 6 for me in this one. I'm not going to tip them by a big score, because I'd be very impressed if they put up like 40 points with this team of a lot of reserve graders. That'd be a really impressive achievement, but I think they'll be too strong for the Tigers, unfortunately. Storm versus Titans. Kafusi and Adokar miss out through Origin. Kenny Bromwich returns, and they've picked young Melbourne winger Dean Ieremia to replace Adokar. Titans have been riddled through injury. Brimson, Fafita, Fodawaker, and Tino all out. Their four best players, obviously. Ash Taylor returns from injury. That's a positive. Preston Campbell's son, Jaden Campbell, will make his debut for the club at fullback, which is exciting. Tyrone Peachey returns to the bench from suspension. The Storm have got to win this surely. They've been beating teams comfortably by 20, 30 points every week, and this Titans team has been decimated. I'm going Storm by 30. I think they'll be too good on the night. And then on the Sunday, Knights versus the Eels. Saifidi, Clemmer, and Frizzell miss for the Knights. Frizzell's injured. The other two, New South Wales. Actually, no, Clemmer got suspended, I think, for his hit on Ben Trebojevic, which was a bit of a shame. Clifford's at the 18th man, so that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Obviously, a lot of times that means they are late in, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Jack Johns has also been picked to debut for the Knights. Obviously, Matty Johns' son, legend of the Matty Johns podcast. Kurt Mann has been picked in the 14, which is interesting. Very good utility off the bench. He can play almost every spot, but interesting that he can't crack that starting spine. Connor Watson at 6 had a really, really good game last week, one of his best for Newcastle. So that's interesting. On the para front, Fergo's been dropped for his, they've deemed a poor performance last week after his Edge conceded 6 of the 7 tries, I believe it was. Junior Paulo's out through New South Wales selection. Dill Brown and Regan Campbell-Gillard return in 2 massive ins. Arguably their 2 biggest ins. Actually, I don't know what I'm saying, but 2 of their best players, you know what I mean. I'll be tipping the Eels by 20. I don't think the Knights were very convincing against the Seagulls. Eels had a bad week last week, but I think Campbell-Gillard in is massive, and I do think Dill Brown's a bigger improvement on Jacob Arthur. Looking at my, my betting stuff, sure bet of the week, it's got to be Storm to beat the Titans. I've picked them to win by 30. Surely the Titans can't win. I just don't see it happening. I don't know where this game's been played, actually, to be honest. Obviously meant to be a Melbourne home game, but it has been moved. I would guess it's in Sydney somewhere. Or it could be on the Sunshine Coast, not sure. But upset of the week, I've tipped the 4 favourites, to be honest. But I guess my closest upsets would be the Tigers or the Broncos. Not sure who's more likely out of those two. Don't trust either of the teams, but if you want to have a stab in the dark there. Then the game spreads. The one I like the most is probably the Eels with a handicap of 12.5 points. I can see them blowing out the Knights. Hopefully it's a close game for me as a neutral viewer, but I can see that happening. Also the Storm, 22.5 point handicap. It's pretty significant, but I can see them blowing it out. I'm sure they've covered that spread a lot of the times this year. So that's going to be it for me today. Enjoy round 13 of the footy.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.